Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krensman.
That would be I. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Yeah, no, I think I got it. There we go. But it was a little bit lagging there for me.
The music probably drained you out a little bit.
That, and I'm also half asleep today. Welcome to the program. Thank you, Dougie Sticks, for the intro as always. Welcome to Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast. This is episode 13. Trace on the Spanish dial for our Spanish listeners, as always. That would be Trace. And you can hear the show, as always, on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, amongst other places. So plenty of places you can find us, and you can always contact us at any time at our email, mypbshow@gmail.com. And I knew, if you're following on the camera, that right as I say that, it's cool. It's like, there it is.
It's like it knows.
It's like it knows my next word. So it knows then that the next words as well out of my mouth are going to be that we are coming to you, as always, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey, which was a little bit of a challenge. We didn't talk about this, actually. Was a little bit of a challenge to get to today because about 700 detours in this town.
Okay, so we can go there. We can address this.
You know what?
I'll make it quick.
We're not going to mention. How about this? We're not going to mention the town because I don't want to say like what town we're in, because then they're going to get annoyed.
Yeah.
But every week in this town, when I come here, there are detours galore, and today is the first time that it affects like literally the street that the studios are on, and you have to now like pull over and talk to the police to get permission to go.
This is not the first time. Okay, here we go. This is not the first time.
Here we go.
This is not the first time.
Let it all out.
This has been happening for the past like 2 months. Every single day, there's something going on in the street or like on the corner of the street. Now, guess what? This is the only way to get through to this area, this one street. Okay, so the only way, if this end of the street is closed, you have to go around 3 towns to get to the other side of the street to come in. Okay, now, all right, whatever, inconvenience, fine, whatever. I had a meeting with a potential client of a local business around here. She couldn't get here.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise.
And then that meeting never happened.
So, yeah, I find it interesting that, and you're right, in the last month, now I come up here, and we normally tape this show on Tuesdays, so I'm here almost every Tuesday morning, and every single week there are some funky detours around like this surrounding area, and it's never the same one where you'd be like, well, they're fixing the same thing, or they're doing a 4-week project. It's always different. Yep. And the one today is awful because it's literally right outside. You can't get through. And then when they reroute you, when you're coming in like the far way where I was, you're rerouted through like 6 side streets, and one of the side streets is the route for another detour. So you don't know now what detour sign yours are. I mean, it's a mess. I don't know.
But it's every day.
Yeah. But you know what? I would assume to an extent that this will probably go away in the coming weeks here as the weather is turning colder, which it is supposed to tomorrow here in the Northeast. As we bulldoze through the month of November, we are almost, well, actually, we're not almost, we are more than halfway through the month with Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S. next Thursday. And before you know it, because Dunkin' Donuts, I'm going to pull it up to the camera, has already done so with their holiday cups, with the Cheers and Cup. So the holiday season will be here before you know it. And then, as always, the new year comes around. And 2021, can we be better? You don't have big shoes to fill.
Yeah, not at all. I will say this. I know they are our morning sponsors here, Dunkin' Donuts. But, I mean, I think they could do better on a holiday cup.
They could do better on a holiday cup. Yeah, and I did see that they introduced their holiday menu this year. Now, I am not, I think you're this, well, no, you're not the same as I look at what's on your table. I'm not a coffee drinker. So I'm really more into like their holiday menu every year for the food aspect, like what kind of cool donuts are you going to send?
Nice.
But it's not very impressive this year. But I did see about 2 minutes before we went on the air here, while you were doing like the last minute checks in here, that there is a donut store around here that has a pecan pie donut, which now I will be on at some point this week. I will bring it on.
You should bring it on the show next week. Live taste test.
We could do that. And speaking of next week, if all holds to plan, Don't you worry if next Tuesday morning we are not on our usual time at around 10:30. We are planning to do a kind of Thanksgiving-ish show with a special guest. An NHL player will be joining us, and that is scheduled to go live around 4 o'clock in the afternoon next Tuesday. Now, the way the world works, it's 2020. It could all fall to heck, and we could be on at 10 a.m., and you may find us at a regular time. But as of right now, the plan next week is to be on later in the day on Tuesday the 24th. Actually, it will have to be later because I cannot be on in the morning. So we will be on later on the day on the 24th.
Nice.
So week number 10 concluded here on the NFL docket this week. And we had gone, we always make our 5 weekly picks. And we had gone into the week with a 6-3 record, meaning if you had followed us, our advice for 6 weeks, you would have won. You followed us for 3, you would have lost. So we had a plus, and I'll do the math. My wife is a math teacher. That is a positive gain of 3 weeks. So had you listened to us, we would have got you some money. This week, and I said last week on the show that this was going to happen, and it did. Mm-hmm. I said we're probably going to go 2-2 on Sunday, and it will all come down to Monday Night Football, Bears, and the Vikings. And wouldn't you know it? Like clockwork, it did. And the Chicago Bears last night sucked. And we had them at plus 2.5, which was certainly not enough to cover. And therefore, we lost, and we dropped a week, and we are now 6-4 on the year. To recap the picks from week number 10, we had Jacksonville plus 14 at the Packers. And I had said last week, when a team is getting 14 points, now look, the Packers are a better team, and that game was actually pretty close. But when a team is giving 14 points, it's hard, or getting 14 points rather, it's hard not to take that. So we had the Jacksonville right. And then the game that I was all about, and it kind of pained me a little bit to do it because we try and stay away from the hometown stuff here. But I was all about the Giants getting plus 4 against the Eagles, and they ended up winning by 10. And then I'll tell you the bad stuff we told you to do. We had Carolina at home getting 6.5 versus Tampa. That didn't hit as Tom Brady regrouped, and Tampa actually regrouped as a whole from an awful performance the week before. We had Seattle getting 1.5 in LA. I don't think it helped that Chris Carson, their running back, was still injured and out, but it doesn't matter. We're not making excuses. We didn't hit the bet. And then last night, the Chicago Bears were absolutely terrible. And we lost getting with them getting 2.5 on Monday Night Football versus the Vikings. So we were 2-3 on the week, which dropped our yearly record here to 6-4. So hopefully, with week number 11 picks coming in a couple minutes, we will be able to regroup and get back on the winning track. But let's talk a little bit about week 10 and last night. So yesterday morning, Dougie Sticks, you and I, for the most part, I would say when we're not here on Tuesdays, we have minimal communication during the week, right? I mean, like, maybe a text here and there. Yesterday, I had texted you in the morning confirming today, making sure we were all good. And then I also wrote to you, I hate fantasy.
Yes.
All right?
This is true.
So we all know it's chronicled on this show. And yeah, it's chronicled on this show a bunch of times that fantasy football, I just have the worst luck. I've done it, 18 years now, and I've never won the thing in my big league. And in my big league, I was playing a guy, and I was projected to win by 21. Now, projections projections, you can put a little bit of stock in it if you'd like. You can't put a lot. Anything can happen. Players get hurt. Look, if you had Drew Brees, for example, as your quarterback this week, he got 8 points and then got hurt and left the game. So there's things happen.
Or Derek Carr, same thing.
Yeah, right? Things happen. Well, it was good for me because then Josh Jacobs got all the touchdowns there. But so these things happen, and I was projected to win by 21. And I saw on Sunday at about 12:25 that my opponent made a move to upgrade his defense to the New Orleans defense, which had a good matchup because they were at home versus San Francisco, who's been decimated by injuries. So I was kind of annoyed, but smart managing on his point. I didn't need them. So basically, in a nutshell, we went into Monday Night Football last night, and I was losing by 11.56 points. I had the Minnesota defense last night, and he had nothing. So basically, for those who don't do fantasy football, defenses really can't get fractional points. By the way, that is I just said fractional. That is all because my wife has been teaching algebra from the kitchen in the last week. I've never used that word in my life. But you can't get half points, right? So basically, I need Minnesota defense to get 12 or more last night to win. If it's 11 or under, we lose. I decided last night that I'm not going to watch, because then I'm going to get in, like if you have a defense playing, like, was it you get points for sacks, points against. So I don't want to get into it.
Yes, but like not as much as you like a sack. Like you should get more points for a sack, right? You're basically getting more. How many points? The score is how many points you get, right? So like if they keep them under 10, if they keep them under whatever,
points allowed.
Those are your main points. I feel like sacks and stuff like that should get more points.
I would agree with you. I'm all for that if you want to do some commish settings next year. So I wake up this morning, as I always do at ungodly early hours, and I go on my phone. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm not proud of this, before I check my work emails, which should be priority, is I want to check fantasy. I want to see what happened. Now, I'm fully expecting to lose, of course, but I decide in the moment, I'm not going to go just click on Yahoo and look at the score. I want to go onto ESPN and look at the box score for the Vikings game and the Bears. So I look and I see Nick Foles has 1 interception, right? So that's +3 right there because that's going against my defense. I see they have 2 sacks and a fumble recovery. So now I'm feeling pretty good. And then I realize that the only touchdown that the Bears had last night was like a 104-yard kick return or 90 for some crazy kick return. But that doesn't go against your defense, right? Only plays with your defense on the field, which that is not. But what does go against your defense is the extra point, right? So I'm thinking to myself, well, this is now going to be close. Like I think my defense maybe had 11, maybe had 12, something like that. And I look, and I have won by 0.44 points. 12 points on the Minnesota defense.
Nice job.
Being a final score on the week. So if I'm going to rant about my fantasy hardships on the show, I have to talk when things go right. But here's the key, Dougie Sticks.
What's the key?
They go right for me in week number 10. They never go right in week 15 in the playoffs. So just you watch in a couple weeks from now as it will plummet the luck. How's your fantasy team going?
2 weeks ago, I was in the running for first place. I lost the last 2 weeks pretty badly, and now I'm in like 5th. Derek Carr really, got to me this week, getting 8 points. I don't know what's going on with James Conner. Last 2 games, nothing. He goes from 30 points a game to nothing.
Well, Big Ben is really taking everything now.
Just throwing?
Yeah,
just throwing all
4
that?
touchdowns. And I'm actually, you know what? I should say something. You just reminded me.
Please.
My opponent had Big Ben and didn't play him because he was on the COVID list, so that he may not play. So he picked up Ryan Tannehill, played him on Thursday Night Football. He got nothing from him.
Yes, 14.25. I have him on my
bench. I got very lucky. And then by the time they announced Big Ben was playing on Friday, it came out. It didn't matter because he had already played Tannehill the night before.
And if I played the Los Angeles defense instead of the New England defense, which I don't know what I was thinking.
You wouldn't have played New England defense against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know. I was thinking Russell Wilson would go off on Los Angeles. I don't know. I figured it'd be a closer game with New England, but I was totally wrong.
There's always week 11, right?
There's always week 11.
There's always week 11. And speaking of week 11, let's discuss. You know what? Before we go there, and I know you and I don't go down this road a lot at all, the New York Giants, if I am not mistaken, are half a game out of first place.
No, they're number 1. They're tied with the Eagles.
I think the Eagles have a tie. So technically, because of the tie,
did they just beat the Eagles?
They did. But the Eagles, I am pretty sure, and I will pull this up here on our studio computers. I am pretty sure the Eagles have a half-game lead on the New York Football Giants, and I am correct. The Eagles stand at 3-5-1. The Giants are 3-7. So the Giants also have not had their bye. The Eagles have a game at hand, and they will make up that game this weekend as the Eagles go to Cleveland, and the Giants are on a bye. So it will make an interesting December around the Northeast because you have a local team that is 3-7 in the running for first place. And as the rules of the NFL dictate, if you finish first in your division, whether you finish 16-0 or 2-14 for that matter, not only do you make the playoffs, you get a home playoff game. So that can add some excitement to football Sundays here in the Northeast, as we are, as you and I were discussing before we went on the air today, clearly heading for a dark winter where we are inside a ton. Yep. So on Sundays, let it be more exciting. Let the Giants be into it and give us something to root for. As we head to week 11 and the picks for this coming week, I like the Houston Texans plus 2.5 at home versus the Patriots. This spread confuses me a little bit. If the Patriots didn't beat the Ravens this past weekend, there is no chance in the world that the Patriots would be favored on the road in Houston. So, and it's still perplexing to me because Houston also was terrible this weekend in Cleveland, but Houston still has Deshaun Watson. They still have some offensive weapons. And they've been playing better since they've had their interim coach in Romeo Crennel, who is also really familiar with the Patriots because if you know, he was a defensive coordinator in New England for years, about 15 years ago. So I like Houston getting 2.5 at home. Again, I don't want to get into the thing I say every week. I always like the home teams getting points, but give me Houston getting 2.5 at home. I'm going to stick with that theme just to be annoying. I'm going to the Broncos plus 3.5 at home versus the Dolphins. The Dolphins are a better team. However, how many times over the years have we seen teams, warm weather teams, go into the altitude at Mile High Stadium or invest whatever stadium it is now out there, and play in the cold winter months and just not show up. And I'm getting the home team, the Broncos, plus 3.5. So I'm even covering beyond the field goal. Give me the Broncos plus 3.5 at home versus the Dolphins. I like the Eagles plus 3.5 at the Browns. The Eagles were dreadful at the Giants this past weekend. They've got to respond. And again, they're in this AFC slugfest of the Titans. So give me the Eagles at home versus the Browns. No, not the Eagles at home. I'm sorry, the Eagles on the road plus 3.5 at the Browns. The Packers plus 2.5 at the Colts. Anytime you can get Aaron Rodgers playing in a dome and he's got some of his weapons are all pretty much healthy. Look, I like the Colts, but the Packers, if I can get points too, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going against him. And he has had a bounce back season. The last game, and the spread, actually, do you have the spreads up?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I could see on the screen, it is still 4.5. The Saints are giving the Falcons 4.5, and Drew Brees is hurt. So if I can get the Falcons here getting some points when when your opponent is missing their best player and really the catalyst for your entire offense.
I don't know. Hill's pretty good, man.
Tyson Hill's good. And you know who belongs in the MVP debate discussion is
Kamara.
And I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and he has been absolutely incredible. So that is where we're at with week number 11 coming up in the books. And anything you want to add?
No, I find it very interesting that the Giants are in the running for first place and could possibly get a first pick.
Well, we know
that would be great.
We know who's headed for the first pick. Now, the game I didn't touch this weekend, and I liked it, but I didn't take it, was your other first round. The team that is for sure going to get the first round pick is the New York Jets. Yeah. The Jets this weekend coming off a bye, so they are going out to LA to play the Chargers, and they are getting 9 points. Normally, I would be all about the Chargers because the Giants got to go cross country. The Jets got to go cross country, and the Jets are basically. There is a slight chance that my son's flag football team could be competitive with the Jets at this rate, and wouldn't surprise me. But the Chargers never. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it's been true. The Chargers don't know how to blow out teams. Yeah. They just don't. The games that they win close, or they're losing in heartbreaking fashion. So giving 9 points on a team that is just historically can't blow you out. I'm not touching that either. So I didn't know where to go on that game. So I'm not taking it, but I do know this. The Jets are really in the driver's seat now for the number one pick. You need Jacksonville really to win one more game because Jacksonville has one win. Jacksonville wins one more game and gets the 2 wins. Yeah,
not that bad. They're just losing by like one every game.
Well, they'll lose this weekend. If I'm not mistaken, Jacksonville is home versus Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, by the way, have we looked? It's actually moved to 9.5. I can see on the computers here in the studio. Pittsburgh, and I don't want to get on the Steelers for a second before we move on from this.
They're undefeated, man.
They're undefeated. And look,
first time ever.
You can't get on a team. It's not a team's fault what their schedule is, right? You play who you have to play. You don't get to pick. But the Steelers are 9-0. Let's look at who they played. They played the Giants in week 1. Denver is terrible. Then they played Houston. They're terrible. Then they played Philadelphia. They're terrible. They played Cleveland, who is okay, I guess, but not great. Beat them. Now, they had 2 quality wins here. They won in Tennessee, but Tennessee now has come back to earth to show you that Tennessee isn't great. And then they won in Baltimore. But Baltimore showed you this past weekend up on Sunday Night Football in New England. They're not really that great to begin with. So, and then they beat Dallas, who stinks. They're on their 5th-string quarterback, like your Uncle Vinny is his guy, I think his name. And then they beat Cincinnati this week. So it's not Pittsburgh's fault, but Pittsburgh is 9-0, and I don't really think they're that great. I mean, they're good, but they're not great. I mean, James Conner, I know your fantasy guy, is not really lighting it up.
No.
Roethlisberger he's had only really 2 games. He's had 3 games this year where he's thrown over 300 yards. Mm-hmm. So they're not, I mean, I don't know. Can't get on them, though. And now they play Jacksonville this weekend. They've got Baltimore at home on Thanksgiving night. That's like the primetime game. And then, again, they play Washington. They play Cincinnati and Cleveland. I mean, look, they're going to win the AFC North, I guess, that division. Yeah, the AFC North. But they haven't really played great teams.
So you're saying Jacksonville's going to get their second win?
Jacksonville is not going to get their second win. Actually, that brings up a good point, and then we'll move on. Who does Jacksonville have left on their schedule? If you're a Jet fan right now, you want Jacksonville to get some wins. So Jacksonville plays Pittsburgh this week. They're not going to win. Now, see, here's a game they can win. Next weekend, they're home versus Cleveland. Cleveland is the better team, but that is a winnable game. Then they go up to Minnesota. Well, they will probably not win that. Then they are home versus Tennessee. That's winnable. Tennessee has not been playing well. At Baltimore, they'll lose, but then they can definitely win this game in Week 16, home versus Chicago. Chicago stinks. So if you're going to tell me I got to find at least one win there, it's either coming at home versus Chicago or at home versus Cleveland. Win one of those 2 games, the Jets continue to suck, and the Jets have the number 1 pick, and probably Trevor Lawrence.
If he wants to play for the Jets.
If he wants to play for the Jets. It wouldn't surprise me. Look, if you're a Jet fan, you know that bad things happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And we regress, and then he'll go back for a senior year, and the Jets will be left with some offensive linemen at number 1, which will do nothing for them. So anyway, to recap the week number 11 picks on the program today, Houston Texans plus 2.5 at home versus the Patriots. The Eagles getting 3.5 on the road at Cleveland. The Broncos getting 3.5 at home versus the Miami Dolphins. The Packers getting 2.5 on the road at the Indianapolis Colts. And last but not least, the Falcons plus 4.5 at New Orleans playing against a Drew Brees-less New Orleans Saints team. Sound good to you?
Sounds great.
We'll see how we do. Hopefully we get back on the winning track here this week. Tune back in next week, and we will see if we do that. So we welcome in. We're going to switch gears here for a couple minutes, and we are going to bring a guest. Now, we can't obviously have people in the studio in New Jersey with everything going on.
It's crazy.
I'm really the only one allowed to hang out with you.
Yes.
According to what I understand.
Best part of the week.
Yes. So everybody else has to come in virtually now.
Yes.
So we welcome into the program one of the subscribers to the podcast, and he runs a very good page, and let's see if modern technology works here if you're following us on the camera. And we welcome in Brandon. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. It's either Pate or Pate. I'm going to go with Pate. We'll find out if I'm right. We welcome in Brandon Pate of Brandon Sports Talk. How you doing, Brandon?
Oh, Brandon, we can't hear you.
I think you're on mute, Brandon.
Maybe it might be my end.
Or maybe on our end. Let's see.
Let's see. Hold on.
We'll figure it out.
Some technical difficulties here. Let's go like this.
I mean, Dougie Sticks can fix anything.
Let's go like that. Now let's give it a go.
All right. Can you hear us? Can we hear you now, Brandon? Let's try.
Brandon, we can't hear you.
Well, we're gonna work on that, Brandon. Stay tuned. We'll get it working. Dougie Sticks figures out everything. On a side note, while we try and do this, and I know someone had asked me for some reason to talk about this today. I still don't have my new car.
You don't have your new car?
No, we are still in the situation where I'm driving this $80,000 loaner car. So I'm not saying it's a negative thing, but I still do not have it. So fantasy football wise, I head into now this weekend a pretty interesting scenario where I am 6-4 with this crap team of mine that lost Saquon Barkley in week 2. And we now head into
Brandon, say something.
Can you hear me now?
Now we got you, Brandon. We're good.
Yes.
Did I say your last name right? How do we say your last name?
It's Pate.
Oh, I had it wrong. I had a 50-50 shot. And normally when I have 50-50 shots, Brandon, I get it wrong. So if we ever flip a coin and I tell you to take heads, take tails. All right? It's a gimme bet. So Brandon runs a very cool page, and we'll put it up on the show, at Brandon Sports Talk. It is a really good podcast. It is a good show. And I will say, Brandon, I spent some time yesterday after you and I talked, really kind of looking through it. And there's some really interesting stuff. You know, we talk here at NFL, we talk stuff that, you know, people really anywhere talks. I feel like you talk about really interesting off the topic stuff and have some good interviews. How long have you been doing it?
So I've been doing my podcast since December of last year, but I've only got big, of course, over the Corona time.
Right. So the coronavirus has certainly helped promote the show. And where do you now? Are you fortunate that you have a studio that you do it in? Do you do it out of your house? Because I know a lot of people are doing podcasts these days out of their house.
No, I do it out of my house. Like literally, you can see my wardrobe, like a little bit over there. It's upstairs. Okay. I'm upstairs in my house, which I call my studio.
Okay, well that works. We will consider it your studio. We won't let the secret out that it's actually your house. It looks like a studio to me. And how often do you tape your show?
I tape my show so whenever I'm sitting in front of the camera, I pre-record my shows and I upload them on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But then, like for example, like I have like a whole right after this, I have like a whole series of interviews where like I interview almost every single day. Okay.
Very cool. And you are in, if I remember reading it yesterday, you're in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What part of North Carolina are you in?
Over near Goldsboro, like an hour away from Raleigh.
Okay. I know Raleigh well. I know Cary and Chapel Hill and all those suburbs through my real job. And then also my wife has some family down there. So let me run some really general sports questions by you just to get your expert opinion, Brandon. So we're going to start here with a topic we've never talked about on the show. And I'm going to have an awful confession out of the gate that's going to scare people. And it's going to scare Dougie Sticks to the right of me here.
Uh-oh.
I am, now I feel bad, I'm going to say it. It's a little bit hard to say this. I am a season ticket holder for the New York Knicks. Now, you probably didn't even know that those things exist with how bad the Knicks are. But at least Doug gets a good chuckle out of it. I am a season ticket holder for the New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks, I'm sure as you know, Brandon, have been abysmal for years. They have made the playoffs. The last time they made the playoffs was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And every year since then have been just god-awful and cannot get out of their own way. In the offseason this past year, they finally made a move away from Steve Mills, who was the team president for a long time, and hired a new team president, a guy by the name of Leon Rose. There's a lot of rumors out there in the past week that the New York Knicks are hot on the trail for Russell Westbrook, who wants out of Houston. If you were Leon Rose, are you going after Russell Westbrook to try and fix the Knicks' problems?
I would, but I've also heard where he might come down here to the Charlotte Hornets. So it's a toss-up between, of course, the Charlotte Hornets and the Knicks.
Okay. So if I have a 50-50 shot here, here's my plan for the Knicks, or maybe it's more my dream, okay? The Knicks cannot attract any free agents ever. We saw that last summer with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Even though Kevin Durant at the time had a torn ACL, we still would have wanted him. So next year, in the summer of 2021, where let's pretend in this world everybody's happy, the vaccine for coronavirus is here, life is almost back to normal, right? That summer, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm going to say the name wrong, Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks is a free agent and will be the dream of every NBA team to sign. Would I be better off waiting and try and spend the money that I have on the salary cap that I can spend to try and get him? Or do I say, I don't want to take the risk of losing him and getting no one and going after Russell Westbrook? What would you do?
In that instance, I would take the best bet and just get Russell Westbrook because so many people is going to want Giannotti and stuff that even with the salary cap that they might have, it might not be enough for, his pleasure,
Yes, I would agree. At this point, as a Knicks fan and what we've been through, I'll take either of them, right? Just you tell me I can have one of them. The thing with Russell Westbrook that worries me, and this is typical Knicks, you go after some marquee guy. Now, Russell Westbrook is definitely on the second half of his career now, right? So he's not young. He's still probably got 3 or 4 years left in the tank about being a possible elite player. But because he's under contract in Houston, you've got to give up something to get him. And the Knicks track record is always, if I'm going to give something up, I'm going to give up too much, or I'm going to pass, or I'm going to give you a draft pick that in turn becomes the next future star. So,
yeah.
One of the other topics, Brandon, and I don't know how long you were in the waiting room there online, that we were just talking about before you joined the show was that, and I have nothing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. As a matter of fact, I like Mike Tomlin as a coach, but they are 9-0. If you look at their schedule, and I'm going to pull it back up here one more time to run through it with you, they really have not beaten anyone good. They've had a very easy schedule. Now, you can't get on Pittsburgh for that because you play whoever you have to play. But when I look at their schedule, they've beaten the New York Giants, the Denver Broncos, the Houston Texans, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans, the Baltimore Ravens. That could be your one quality win. The Dallas Cowboys, and the Cincinnati Bengals. Do you believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are the best team right now in the AFC?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you consider them a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
Yes, they will. I predict that they will be in the Super Bowl.
And who do you think will be coming out of the NFC?
It'll be a toss-up between, let's see, on the NFC side, I'm trying to remember who exactly.
Well, you've got some hot teams in the NFC West. You've got Seattle, obviously, and Arizona. I'm not even going to mention the NFC East because whoever wins that division doesn't deserve to.
Giants.
The Giants are going to win that division with 5 wins. So we'll leave them out.
I'm going to go Seattle.
Seattle, okay. Yeah, I think that's a good bet for them to turn it on, particularly because it is being rumored that they are getting Chris Carson back this week for their critical game on Thursday night. You also have, though, when I think about it, you also have Tampa in the NFC with Tom Brady. New Orleans takes a hit now because you've got Drew Brees out probably for a while. And then you also still have, you can't forget about Aaron Rodgers up in Green Bay. I mean, I don't love the guy, but I mean, he's certainly a contender. So we shall see. Well, Brandon, thank you for joining the program today. We'd love to have you back another time, and keep up the good work. We will promote Brandon Sports Talk. We encourage our audience to tune in to his shows. They are very good. They're very informative. Brandon takes a different approach where he kind of talks about some less popular topics, but they're really cool and interesting, and you do a good job with it. So keep up the good work, Brandon, okay?
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, buddy. Be well down there in North Carolina.
Thank you.
You got it. So that is Brandon of Brandon Sports Talk. We thank him for joining us with some interesting takes. So the Knicks, right?
By the way, you forgot one thing.
Yes.
You might not know it yet. Harden is trying to go to the Nets.
Yes. So what is – all right, so let's go there for a minute. What's happening right now as a Knicks fan is almost your worst nightmare because you're getting all these marquee free agents who want to come to New York, but they want to play on the other side of the East River, and they want to play in Brooklyn. Because last year you had, as everybody knows, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving come this way. Now you have Harden asking to go here. This is becoming a really bad situation.
Really bad.
And James Dolan, who runs the Knicks and the Rangers for that matter, has been often criticized that players in the league hate him so much that they hate him beyond any desire to go play for the Knicks. Now, if you're a free agent and you didn't have James Dolan, you would look at New York as the following. It's the Mecca of basketball. You play in the middle of Manhattan at 33rd and 8th in the world's most famous arena. Mm-hmm. And automatically, if you put on a Knicks jersey, what happens? You become a marketing star, right? You're going to get way more endorsements playing for the Knicks than you would probably maybe any other team in the league except maybe the Lakers, right? You're not going to go play for the Minnesota Timberwolves and get the same sort of endorsement deals as you're going to get in Manhattan, right?
How bad does it have to be for all the things you just listed, and you still don't want to go there?
And you still don't want to go there. You know, if the Knicks don't get Russell Westbrook here, and I don't necessarily know that it's the right move to get him. I'm not really all for this either. But if they don't get Russell Westbrook, and what people are saying is true, which is that Giannis Antetokounmpo next summer is not going to come to New York. He doesn't want because of Dolan. When does this franchise ever get turned around? Does James Dolan really have to sell the Knicks to get them to?
Don't say it. You might lose your season tickets, man. He doesn't let people in the building if you talk smack.
No, look, he's done. He's been incredible with the Rangers. Look, I'm a Ranger season ticket holder. The Rangers run the last 16 years since the lockout of 2006 has been awesome, and the Rangers' future right now is as brighter as probably than any other NHL team. But the Knicks just cannot get anybody even interested in signing here.
Yeah. So why? So that's a good point. You know, what is he doing differently that, you know, he's the most hated man in basketball for the Knicks, but he's doing a good job for the Rangers? Like, I didn't even think, like, when you talk James Dolan, you don't even think Rangers. I don't.
No.
First thing I think about is, like, him kicking out Oakley.
Charles Oakley. Right. So here's what I think from what I've read over the years. The Rangers had a president who just retired, although he's still involved in the organization, Glenn Sather. Glenn Sather really ran the Rangers, and James Dolan kind of had his hands off it. He owned it, but James Dolan really, Glenn Sather rather, really was in charge. With the Knicks, I think Dolan's been far more involved on the Knicks side of the business, way more than he ever was with the Rangers. And I just think it hasn't been the right fit. So, but on the bright side, if we could get one free agent, just one, to start it, that's what they need.
But who? Who's it's got to be like an Antonio Brown of basketball. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's like they have no other choice.
Well, last year, and we didn't do the show in 2019, they were in the running and they had the highest odds to win the Zion Williamson lottery. And they did not. And not only did they not get number one pick, they also didn't get the number 2 pick, which everyone knew was going to be John Morant, who ended up going to Memphis. They ended up with the number 3 pick, and they got R.J. Barrett out of Duke. Now, I don't think you can say after a coronavirus shortened season, one season, where he also hasn't really had a cast of characters, what R.J. Barrett can be. If you want to be optimistic, I am going to go on the stuff that I read that said Mike Krzyzewski, his coach down at Duke, gave him gleaming reviews coming out of college at the sort of pro player he can be. So maybe the blueprint for the Knicks, hopefully, is R.J. Barrett develops, some of these other young guys develops, and you can sign a guy, because the Knicks now have plenty of draft picks and they have room on the salary cap. See, for years, the Knicks they were in salary cap hell. They couldn't do anything. Now, at least you have the ability to do things, but nobody wants to come here. Yeah. It doesn't matter. So the Knicks just can't get out of their own way. And, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but let's hope that whether it's Russell Westbrook or Giannis Antetokounmpo, the franchise does turn themselves around in the coming years.
Why do you think they, the NFL, Jets are getting the first round pick? Why is there a lottery? Why, you know what I mean? Like, they should have gotten the first.
Because they don't want teams tanking. I'm fair with that. If you're the Jets right now look, Adam Gase, who's the head coach for now, he won't be next year, is never going to prepare his team's game plan to lose, right? This is his job. His livelihood is to win games, right? So you don't want to encourage tanking, right? But if you're a Jet player right now, Sam Darnold would be a horrific example because they want to get Trevor Lawrence. But if you're a young Jet player and you know you're going to be there, let's say for 5-10 years, or you want to be there for 5 or 10 years, would you rather lose a meaningless game in December versus Miami and get Trevor Lawrence and set yourself up? Or would you rather win to keep the current regime around? It's not a hard question to answer. Yeah. So they do it to discourage tanking in the NBA. The NFL does not, as you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the New York Jets, if you are a New York Jets fan, you should be heavily rooting to just lose every single game. And as mentioned before, you should be rooting for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win 1 or 2 more games to basically all but solidify that you are going to end up with the number 1 pick.
And you got to make some moves, man. You let Le'Veon Bell go for nothing. If you're really planning to get Trevor, you should be shopping around Sam right now and trying to get something, because as soon as you get Trevor, you're not going to get anything for Sam.
The New York Jets, I'm looking at the NFL standings. So the New York Jets are obviously the only winless team, so they're in the driver's seat right now to get the first pick. But the Jacksonville Jaguars we talked about have 1 win. There's only 3 teams. Or no, there's a bunch of teams that have 2 wins. But if you think about it, the New York Jets would have to win 2 more games to put yourself. That's what I'm exactly. What I'm about. So the Jets go this week to the Chargers. They will lose that game. That won't matter. Now, see, next week, there's a couple on here that maybe, next week at home, Thanksgiving weekend to Miami. Miami's playing a lot better. Miami should win, but I'm not sure I'd be surprised if Miami just didn't show up. But that would be a game that they could win. The next week, they're home versus Vegas. They should lose that game. Then the next 2 weeks, they are absolutely losing and getting pummeled. They go to Seattle on December 13th in week 14.
Nope.
And then week 15, they also go across country to play the LA Rams. So the Jets actually have 7 games left. 3 of them, they go cross country. They play at the Rams, at the Chargers, and at the Seahawks. Those are all losses. Mm-hmm. The last game of the year, they play at New England. Now, that game will probably mean nothing for New England because they're not going anywhere. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe New England will have a chance to be in the wild card, but Bill Belichick is not ending his season losing to the Jets. Yeah. So there's 2 real places the Jets can win. Actually, and there is really one that they can win. The next week at home versus Miami, they probably won't win, but they could win. But week 16, December 27th, they play at home versus the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's not that good. They could win that game. Hopefully, though, they don't. And if you get Jacksonville to win just 1 more game, the Jets can win a game and it doesn't even matter. You're getting the first pick. Mm-hmm. But then all eyes will turn. And the second that the Jets clinch the first pick, you know what's going to happen. Yep. All the questions start for Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. He down in Clemson, he is going to have to answer 1 million questions instantly. And the speculation will begin.
So you're Trevor. What are you doing?
If I'm Trevor Lawrence, here's what I do. If it's between you know what? I guess it's not. You don't know who's going to have the number 1 pick next year, right? So you could end up in a situation, you turn the Jets away, the Jets suck again next year, and you're in the same boat, and then you can't go anywhere because it's your senior year. I would come out for the reason we talked about with the Knicks before. If you can play in the New York market, and the Jets, and look, I don't like to say this, but it's true, the Jets are probably the second team in this town. The Giants have a bigger following. Doesn't mean the Jets don't have a good fan base, but you're still in the New York market, right? Mm-hmm. So you come out as the number 1 pick overall, setting all these records in college, and you come to the New York market, I don't know why you would turn that down, just sheerly based on endorsements. Yeah. And look, the Jets have a lot of holes to fill to get you to be competitive, but if you wait a year and you come out again next year, whoever the number 1 team is next year with the number 1 pick had the worst record is going to have a lot of holes to fill too. And you know what? If it's Jacksonville next year, are you going to tell me a year from now you're going to be happy you decided to pass on the New York market to go play in Jacksonville?
Let's go down that road. You got Jacksonville, the Jets. Who else is in that boat that you could if you don't go this year?
If you don't go this year, well, you know what? Dallas is there, but Dallas will not be there next year because they'll have Dak Prescott back. Yeah. So they will not.
You wouldn't get rid of Dak for Trevor.
I probably would, but I don't think they're going to have the opportunity to. So next year, if you look at some of these 2-win teams, Washington could be there, although they have this Haskins kid, but I don't think Washington's getting there this year to drop that low. So maybe next year. And if I look at the AFC, again, it's Jacksonville and the Jets. The Chargers probably don't need him. This kid, Justin Herbert's been great. I don't know. And Texans are having a terrible year, but they don't really need to replace Deshaun Watson. This is the year. Take the money, man, that you're going to get in New York. Become a star. Become a star. And if you suck for 5 years, you know what? You've worked your way out of there. But at least milk it. Get the money here. And if the Jets are still a train wreck in 5 years, which is probably a hefty good bet to do because it's the New York Jets, you leave and you go elsewhere.
I'm trading Sam and getting a good lineman.
Yeah, I'm
maybe two good linemen.
I'm training Sam for that pecan pie donut we were talking about before is what I'm doing. That is a wrap on the show today. As I mentioned last week, if we are not on in the morning, we probably will not be. Hopefully, we will be doing a Thanksgiving special with an NHL player in the afternoon next Tuesday, the 24th. In the meantime, stay well, stay healthy, enjoy the cold weather in the Northeast that has crept in here overnight, and enjoy week number 11. We will try to win you some money, and we'll be back with you next Tuesday. Enjoy your week.